Hello everyone, this is Nickredace coming with your brand new video. This time we're going to be going over Sprocket, a brand new early access tank designer game. So what can we look forward to in this game? Well, let's head on the sandbox and I'll show you. For example, if we look at, say, the hull. By grabbing here, we can customize the angle the hull is at. As you can see, it changes right here. We can also do the same thing with the turn. Where is it? Customize angle, cheek angles, as well as the width. Oh, no, it's more angles. Though we can change the width. We go here. It's perfect. As well as length of the turn as well. And if that's not enough, you know, if you want a giant brick on top of your tank, we can fix it. Which means pretty much this is part of the tank. Like, actually part of the tank. So, up here, we have the internal space. That's the space of the hull. And then the turret space. Now, right now, this tank can't support the weight of that turret. And we can do this. This is still the space of the turret. So I'm actually going to go through and just show you one of my basic designs. We'll go through that. So the first thing is you do get all these options, which means we get to change to the, again, the size of the turret, width of the turret, and we also get to change the height of the turret. That also changes the angles here on the tank. All these are pretty customizable, as well as the cheeks and the height of this. Now, the height on the rear and front do affect the front angle of the gun. In fact, they create the front angle of the gun. We also have the Turnt ring height. There's no real benefit to having it tall, so we keep it low, except for the fact that it's a large target. This can be shot, and if it's shot, it can take out the tank. We can increase the size of it. Again, no real reason. We can increase the torque of the engine. Without power traverse, the turret moves really slow, but it saves you space. With it, you lose space, but you know, you can now move it far faster. You then have armor. So, armor, pretty simple. Every portion of your tank has its own millimeters of armor. And based on the slope you give it, that millimeters can increase. So here we have 45, but it's sloped at about 53 degrees, which gives it 75 millimeters of armor, roughly. The roof is always going to be low for my tanks, simply because there's no air threats, and I'm never going to be on a hill, or rarely going to be on a hill. Hull, same way. This tank, it has this, like, 10 millimeters. So it means if you hit that, it's dead. But everything else is, well, super hard to kill, at least from the front. The sides, they only have 75 millimeter, but this is meant for you to face the enemy with. And, of course, you can bounce off the side super easily. The back has practically no armor. Mobility, you start off with what type of transmission you want, which, let's be honest, is always going to be twin transmission. Clutch braking has it's light. That's the only advantage. Twin transmission allows you to traverse without moving, and yeah, requires a lot of gears. But if you're making a fast tank, you need a lot of gears anyway. Then we can move on tracks. Now this is when this bottom section opens up. In this bottom section, you can change what type of sprocket wheel you have, as well as the mount, which is only one. Your different type of idler wheel. The mount, which also is the same for now. Your road wheels. Your suspension. Now the suspension actually does affect like the height of your vehicle, so put that in consideration. Return rollers, all these are pretty much just visuals for now. Track segments, what they look like. I just think that this one looks the best. And then spare tracks allows you to put, well, spare tracks anywhere on your tank. So let me just get rid of that. Boom. Now I have spare tracks. Now that does add slight armor bonus to that area. You then have additional settings here, such as, you know, the length of the tracks, which also affects the length of the track there, which I think is super cool. The width of the track, and the thickness. You then had sprockets, which have how forward you want it. The height you always want pretty high, at least not for sprocket, but for the where is it? Idler. Because when you hit a hill or something, you need this to be high enough so that it can pull itself over. Road wheels, they determine, well, so in this game the tracks don't actually work per se. It's based on the wheels. So say if you have large wheels, it's going to be slightly easier to go over certain obstacles and a lot harder to go over others. This one just had fairly small wheels. How many you want per axle, the group, the spacing. There's only group spacing doesn't matter since there's one per group. That's pretty much it for tracks. Engine, we're gonna go to advanced. It does give you several options, you know, light engine, medium engine, heavy engine. As you can see, they're all kind of crap. Now here you can change the number of cylinders, displacement, which increases your speed, your RPM. Now the problem is with RPM, your tank can break if you don't have the gears to balance it out. So one of the harder parts of this game is simply balancing out your engine and your transmission to get decent speed without your tank going a billion RPM and then destroying your engine. We then have fuel. Fuel, it just gives us the option of it, one external tank or this little, I guess, fuel tank. Fuel port? We'll say fuel port. Now, when you do that, it does appear as an object in your tank now. So I have one right here. So now the game is saying, okay, your fuel tank is right there, which makes it a weakness on your tank. Of course, you still need at least one fuel for the tank to really work. Then you have fenders. You can either have them auto-generated or not. And then you can just change them depending on what type you want. I thought these were pretty normal. And then you have riveted panels, which you can just be like, I just want random panels. And you can customize, you know, that. Boom. Sadly, you can't really push them into the tank. So, yeah. You have instances where you want to do something cool, and you can't do it because of small limitations. Then we move on to firepower. So in this tank, we have, well, let's just start off with some mantlets. So this one has a light mantlet. That's a small gun. This one pretty much just has move up and down. This, on tanks that don't have turns, allows it to move side to side slightly. But since it is placed on a turn, it can't rotate sideways. And of course, onward and onward. This one, I believe, is also one of the ones that can turn slightly sideways, but since it's on turn, it doesn't. This one just moves up and down. Same thing with this one. And of course, we then have medium turns, which are again larger, and then eventually heavy mantlets, which is whatever the hell this is. It's perfect. But we're going to go back to this. So when you're putting in the gun, you got to put in, of course, the turret mount, or the gun mount, I should say. You can then change the actual armor on this, because this only has 20 mil base. So that means if an enemy is shooting here, bounces off your armor, if they shoot the actual mantlet, they can go straight through. So we need to give that a decent amount of armor. I'll say 112. It's not really angled. And then this will show us the armor. Perfect. Now we know the max depression, 17 degrees. So that means it can aim 17 degrees down. Elevation rate is 30 degrees. Now you have to keep an eye on the elevation rate, because as you make your cannon heavier and heavier, that elevation rate goes down. So let's say we up it to 92 millimeter. Now it has negative elevation rate. That means you can't move it up. So you'd have to balance that out. Also, it's right here, just for help, with longer barrel. Now the elevation has gone up, so now we can elevate it. But now we have a longer barrel. Another thing you might have noticed with the cannon is we have shell length and, you know, of course, caliber. Barrel length and base length. So the base here, it's more of a visual thing. When the gun fires, the barrel itself will move back like a lot, but the base won't move back as much. It gives it a cool look. We then have the counterweight, which, depending on how big your turret is, it will also affect the elevation rate. This was added to make it so you don't have to have super long barrels all the time. Again, if you want to lower your shell length, see, and then we can increase the counterweight to balance that out. But of course, since our shell length is going to be pretty long, the longer the shell length, the more penetration. And then we have just ammo. Right now it's just AP and HE. You're going to use AP most of the time anyway. And that's pretty much it for firepower. So then we have crew. Now crew, we have crew hatches. Do they affect anything? Not really. But they look cool. We then have viewports. You need at least one driver's viewport and one gunner's viewport. The thing you need to know about the gunner's viewport is you actually look from that area. So if you're like, oh, I'm going to hide inside the turret. Well, guess what? You're going to see blackness when you go look through the turret. This one's just for visual. Commander's cupola is just, it shows where your commander is, which also, you know, see circles. Those are where your crew members are, or at least the driver and the commander. Antenna, just visual, stowage, visual, lights. On nighttime maps, the lights, you can turn them on. And utilities, also visual, and structural is also visual. And then livery, which is just pretty much camo. So here's our really basic tank. And by basic, I mean this is the first tank I ever created, and it's kind of crap. I say as it only goes 14 miles per hour. Now you might notice it's taking a long time to load that ammo. Oh, see, it's already gotten stuck. That's because I tried to make its height a lot shorter, and by doing that, it can now bottom out super easily. So let's go back to the designer, and we'll test out the Raptor. This is one of my other tanks. You know, more angled armor. Just looks all around better. And slightly goes a little bit faster. Alright, so, and let's see. Let me summon that first tank. So you might notice that, hey, where's the viewport? On this, oop, that was me getting shot. In this mantlet, it has the viewport built into it. So that armor is just too tough for this gun to penetrate there. But I know this slot does have one weakness, and that's easily punch through that front armor on turn. Which is why it got changed into this. It's so much more angled. Other designs you can really go into. This one I know can't show any tanks, but this is made as like a fast APC sort of vehicle. Except the fact that it only has 2 crew members, so it's not really much of a personnel carrier. So this game gives you a lot of options for creating your own tank. And of course testing those tanks. This is like the highest barrier you can go over. The sloth can't make it over this at all. Of course because they bottom out. The second part about this game is scenarios. It doesn't have too many, again, very early access. But it's got enough. I'm going to skip No Tanks Land because it's pre-war. And unless you have a very specifically designed tank, your tank won't do anything. So we'll load this. By the way, this is like the base tank that it always loads up scenarios with, or when you're entering sandbox. And we'll try... Can't try that. We'll try the sloth. Let's see. Oof. So I believe what's happening here is because of the time frame. No, the liberation range is... Ah. I forgot to say that this tank has very low side armor. Okay, in that case, let's go to this bad boy. Ah, it must be under 40 tons. Okay. This is my tank destroyer version of the Raptor. But instead of having that 90mm, it has a 40mm. Well, practically a 40mm auto gun. Just because how fast it fires. I see how my RPM's going up. My engine's turned yellow on the bottom. It's about to explode. The tank won't explode, but my engine will. Yeah. So, my tanks aren't really designed for this early war stuff. So let's go to a different scenario. Let's do the Crossroads. Crossroads only has one tank. Of course, that tank can destroy pretty much any tank. We'll put the Raptor and see how it does. And again, this is a 90mm cannon. It's only going 16 miles per hour, but it's not too bad. Oh, I've been hit. Shot was deflected. Let's see where it's coming from. That is a King Tiger embedded in the ground. Now, I'm pretty sure that cannon can penetrate part of my armor. And I'm also pretty sure I can't penetrate its armor at all. With this tank, at least. But maybe, just maybe, I can get around the back. I was not expecting that to work. So that's just a few of the things you can do in this game. But again, there's so many creative things people have done in this game. Let's go look at a few. So as you can see here, people have made plenty of tanks. Yeah, pretty interesting World War I looking tanks, video game tanks. This amazing beast of a tank. The Mouse, Shermans. And remember, we don't really have too many options when it comes to attachments. So for this, it looks like there's a whole bunch of different stuff attached to it. Most of this is just a few boxes pushed onto it. Like, for example, this tank over here, which I guess would probably be a tankette. Yeah, this tank's pretty much tankette, because that's a machine gun turret. Look at this. So many cool tanks. A lot of these, though, aren't technically functional. What in God's name? That is most definitely just hacked. Because there's no way you could fit anything in there. Yeah, I don't know what any of this stuff is. Like flying vehicles. This one, though, look at it. 2 machine gun turrets, massive turret in front. Just maybe one too many exhausts. It's nice. And the best part about it is he's done regular updates. So let's go up to see what he's really been doing. So he updates roughly every 10 days. And there's a decent amount of updates. One of the things I found really interesting is his roadmap. So let's look at the roadmap he has so far. 5+ player suggested vehicle parts and 2 new scenarios per quarter after 2021 quarter 3. So we're entering that now. So we're hoping that we're getting at least 5 more vehicle parts and 2 new scenarios. So he's been actually doing pretty decently at the fixes. So in the beginning, there's an issue where if you were driving your tank and you tried to turn, it would turn the opposite way. Really weird. So something he wants to do before the end of this year is vehicle parts and vehicle descriptions, custom decals and camo, which would be fantastic, multi-turns and structures. I'm not so sure how much people care about structures, but definitely multi-turns, even if you're just going to have it fixed to the tank to make the tank look cooler. And round turns. Yeah, no, definitely need round turns. And multiple cannons, because who doesn't want a mammoth tank? Quarter 1 of 2022, multi-language support, spike nose hole, vehicle and resource management. That's pretty interesting. Quad tracks. Most of these I'm not really too super interested in, like quad tracks. Okay, vehicle and resource management. That's gonna be nice because I'm weird like that, like resource management. And then this is the part that I'm really like, I can't wait for. Shell designer. Right now there's only 2 types of shells: AP and AP high explosive. AP is of course the best choice here, as it's your best chance to penetrate armor. You gotta remember there's nothing else to shoot but tanks. And very rarely are you going to pierce the armor of a tank and not disable or destroy it. Also, if you can pierce the hull of the tank, you can shoot it multiple times and disable and destroy it. But if they have it where you can eventually make sabot rounds or heat rounds, oh, it'd be so nice. Quarter 2 of 2022, dedicated mod support, Steam Workshop. I think that the Steam Workshop part should be probably put up to quarter 1. If anything, just for the fact, just so that you can share your tanks. That's really what's needed. Open turns and holes. That'd be pretty nice. He definitely need to get crew member models. Which I guess with mod support, they'd be changing. The community is going to be... the videos I've seen come from this early access game have been amazing. So he definitely has done good work. And I think if he keeps on this roadmap, he'll definitely go somewhere. Multiplayer, definitely. I also think that should probably move it up to quarter 1, simply because right now all we have scenarios, but being able to fight other people with your tanks definitely would be nice. Wheels, APCs, auto cannons, functioning MGs, just quarter 4 of 2022. Auto cannons would be nice. I'm hoping that he's adding equipment, but that being said, he is adding the, mod support in 2022, so that means it's going to be added. I'm talking about just simple things like reactive armor, and again, an autoloader for the cannon. Something that takes up a good amount of resources, good amount of space, but you don't need another crew member to increase load time. Or should I say decrease load time. MGs, I'm not really sure how useful MGs are. He is going to add AI aircraft. So maybe he's also going to add AI infantry? Or maybe the machine guns are to shoot at the aircraft? Maybe you can make flak rounds or make flak cannons? No, I'm just putting all these together because you are going to have multiple cannons and multiple turns. So maybe you can have a turret that's able to auto-aim. Interesting ideas. Improved design visualization. No idea what that means. New tank suspension. New GUI improvements. Extra game modes. Also not sure what what is he gonna do with extra game modes? Like maybe like a 12v12. Well, get multiplayer's released too. So, World of Tanks. The thing I'm really looking forward to the most out of his entire roadmap is I can't wait for Shell Designer, Steam Workshop, the multiple turns and multiple cannons, and the auto cannons. That's pretty much it. Even multiplayer can kind of wait, because with the Steam Workshop, I can load in other people's tanks and fight them. I can improve my own tanks. The Steam Workshop would add so much to this community. The Shell Designer, I'll just go back to from the depths, age. It's definitely add a lot to it too. Just the complexity of your tank, and now you have the complexity of the ammo. You're already working on the engine. The suspension's already at your control. It's pretty much the last thing. Yeah, the cannons, turns. So the last thing I'm gonna do before I get off is just show you a few of the tanks I've made. So you've already seen the Raptor. Now see the Raptor's bigger cousin, the Tempest. Now this is pretty much me just upsizing a Raptor, giving it wider tracks, longer tracks, and 110mm cannon. The other thing I've done is it's more of a breakthrough tank. Since it's a breakthrough tank, that means that the sides of it are also heavily armored. The back still has low armor, but unlike the previous versions of all my tanks, it can now be shot inside and not immediately explode. This one also has so much more armor, and it doesn't have the weak point directly in the middle, that it can pretty much absorb anything and everything King Tiger throws at it. Of course, the King Tiger is still a little bit too tough to penetrate, at least front. But maybe if I aim just there, right at the tip. And the reason for that is just because if we go to this gun, and almost 200mm of armor penetration. Since it doesn't have 200mm of armor penetration, it won't penetrate the King Tiger's armor. Let's throw up the one before it. So this tank probably won't survive too long, simply because it also has low armor on the sides, and this is an ambush, and I can't drive because the transmissions in this are a bit wonky. At least for the era. I feel like there's another one sneaking up on me. Bounced off. Oh, no, I killed it? I killed it. See him over there hiding. Am I getting hit? There they are. All their shots are bouncing off me. Now I think they have like 30mm cannons. And this is my 40mm high velocity cannon. Okay, fun game. Still needs a lot of kinks to work out. Still has a bunch of content that needs to be added. But overall, it is a solid tank making game. Thank you all for watching. This has been Nickredace. I'll see you all in the next video. Nickredace out.